Yo, what is up guys, Grim here, and in today's video I wanted to talk about the great Scarab shortage and the introduction of the brand new Scarab recipe, which was added in 3.14. So first of all, let's start off with the Scarab recipe. So if you guys didn't know, they added a brand new crafting recipe into the game, which you can use by talking to a vendor. So this recipe essentially allows you to vendor 2 Scarabs of the same type, with a horizon orb, and then flip that into a random scarab. So let's say that I wanted to flip, what do I want to flip over here? We can flip some ambush scarabs here, and then you can flip 2 of those and a horizon orb into a scarab of a different type. So if you're sitting on a bunch of torment scarabs, you can indeed swap them for something different, and that is going to make your scarab, kind of collection much better. You can kind of get rid of all the trash scarabs, like these torment ones are completely useless. I'll swap those over now, and you can hopefully get some ones which you can use. So we'll flip those over here. I'm going to need 4 horizons, and that's a pretty good one. So definitely recommend looking into that. And we actually did get a polished breach, a legion, which is 10C, which is pretty nice. We got polished breach. Those are all pretty nice pickups there. Very good there. So this actually does make a lot of the breach farming scarab the scarab farming strategies a lot more effective. And I kind of wanted to go into a few different methods that you can farm scarabs this league, because there is a massive shortage of them, and some scarabs are completely ridiculously overpriced. For example, the Harbinger scarabs have reached all-time highs. We've never seen them this expensive, and I don't think that they're going to stop anytime soon being this expensive, as they are feeding into the primary, most powerful strategy of this league, which is Nemesis 3 in the Harbinger zone. Okay, so the great Scarab shortage. How are we going to address this, and how can we farm Scarabs in general? So there's a few massive things that you can hit in terms of the Scarab farming strats, and the first one I want to talk about here is Heist. Specifically lock-picking contracts. So lock-picking contracts feature the fragment chest, and the fragment chest obviously does drop, anywhere between 2 to 3 scarabs. And this, in my opinion, is weighted much more favorably than traditional scarab drop rates. And what I mean by that is it has a very high chance to drop skilled scarabs. And my example of that is if you go back to my my contract video, I think I called it the most accessible farming strategy there is. You can see just how many gilded scarabs and scarabs in general I have from doing 100 lockpicking contracts. And then you can actually amp that up further by putting a scarab duplication trinket on your lockpicking guy, and that is going to make it much more lucrative, and you can cash in on some absolutely ridiculous scarab prices. So if you wanted to pinpoint a scarab, you can also look into using incubators. Incubators are actually one of the few things that do still drop scarabs. So for example, the Abyss incubators drop them. The Scarab incubators obviously drop them as well. Harbinger incubators drop the Harbinger scarabs, so those are going to be very potent for picking up those very expensive Harbinger scarabs. Breach ones drop the breach ones. Blight ones drop the blight ones, etc, etc. I believe that the fossil ones do not drop the sulfite ones, but this is going to lead to my next point. So targeting specific heist chests also yields their scarab type. So also in that contract video, I showed off the demolition contracts, which feature both blight, delirium, and metamorph. And in that example, you would have seen the massive amount of blight and also metamorph scarabs I got, and you can see here I still actually have them. I think I got something like 30 or 40 of each, ranging some of them gilded, some of them polished, and it actually really is a truckload of scarabs, and you can go and look at it, but it is a lot. So contracts are a really good source of scarabs right now, and you can really gear up your rogues to really give you the most amount of scarabs possible as well. Not really too sure on the blueprint front. I haven't ventured too much into blueprints right now, but I do know that they do drop winged scarabs, and you can also target specific reward types on blueprints and purchase them and unveil them as you see fit, which can also be potentially quite lucrative in terms of acquiring scarabs. Alright, let's move on to some of the more obscure strategies now, which you guys can pursue in terms of getting scarabs, because this pretty much covers all of the main ones. Let's talk about Betrayal. So right now, Betrayal is actually in a fairly weak place in terms of scarabs, in terms of target farming. So right now I tested it out and I set up a very specific Jun board. I'll show you my investigation here. So I went with Vegan and Tora as the only two intervention members, and Fled and Varici the only two research members. The plan behind this was essentially to print Harbinger and Legion Scarabs. The reality of that is though that it's actually not too effective, and just doing heist yields a far more Scarabs than doing this strategy. And overall I think that while Betrayal is a source of Scarabs, going about it this way may not be too powerful, even though, you can, cash in on Varici and Itherfled, for example. If you are looking to farm Scarabs from Betrayal, you're much better off loading up the intervention as much as possible with as many members as possible, and then doing Katarina, getting winged Scarabs, getting more members in there, upgrading them more and like higher ranks. And then Katarina herself drops anywhere between 3 to 7 Scarabs in my experience, ranging from Gilded to Rusted as well, which is fairly reasonable, but you're not going to be able to target farm specific Scarabs from that, and you're not going to be able to target farm any large quantity of them, which is what we're looking for to address the Great Scarab Famine. So yeah, that's definitely not, in my opinion, the way to go. So the way to really reliably print a massive amount and ton of Scarabs is actually using sextants. Now, if you actually do the math on this, there is going to be a breakpoint in which it's worth it for you. But overall, essentially, in order to do this, I'm not going to exactly explain it because I'm sure I'll piss a lot of people off who are doing this. But the general premise is that you gear up in Lex Proxima and you get a bunch of sextants. You block with sextant blocking the highest weighted sextants on your given sextant type, whether that's Rusted from Simple, Polished from Prime, Gilded from Awakened, or I'm actually sure, Winged from Elevated. You can block high mods and get the respective Scarabs by rolling the Sextants, hard rolling them, similar to how you do with the Nemesis 3 strategy. You can accumulate a massive amount of Scarabs because every time you roll the Sextant, you get 12 Scarabs guaranteed in the Lex Proxima area if you're running the center talent here, which is Enduring Influence. You get significantly more. You get 45 winged Scarabs per time that you roll the elevated sextant, but of course that is going to be balanced out by the fact that elevated sextants are incredibly expensive. This is definitely a big kind of economic player's play, but you can accumulate a ton of Scarabs, and the play here will be to accumulate them and sell them at a bulk and much higher price because you have high stock. The thing that makes this strategy particularly potent is that you will be accumulating a lot of the bad Scarabs as well as the good ones, but you can now re-roll them using the Scarab recipe, and then kind of accumulate a lot more of the good ones and offset that kind of bad RNG streaks, which is quite appealing actually, and I'm a big fan of that one. All right, moving on. How else can you accumulate Scarabs? Well, as unpopular as Harvest is, Harvest does actually feature Scarab crafts. And this allows you to essentially, the most popular one and the best one in my opinion, is the one where you can split a Scarab into 2 other Scarabs by downgrading it. In a lot of cases, this is not advisable, but in my opinion, Harvest, you can like split, for example, a Gilded Legion Scarab and create 2 Polished Legion Scarabs. And what makes this particularly potent is that there's also options to upgrade Scarabs as well in Harvest. And overall, if you're running Haywake Hamlet to maybe accumulate some essences, or you're going for the ritual tech or something like that, you can also leverage this to accumulate some Scarabs, but I wouldn't recommend target farming it necessarily. All right, moving on to another option here, which is a bit of a low budget option, and that is actually the Scarab Watchstone modifier. So if you guys didn't know, there's a Watchstone modifier, which essentially makes the end boss of each map, basically the last boss that you slay of the map, drop a Scarab 10% of the time. And you can have up to 4 of these and then multiply that by 25% using the Secrets of the Stones node. You can have a 50% chance for your boss to drop a Scarab, which actually is reasonably appealing. If you calculate the average price of a Scarab and then also factor in the recipe that you can do, it does actually add a considerable amount of currency to your maps, and it may actually be one of the most powerful Watchstone modifiers overall if you actually do the math on it, because if you do 100 maps, you get 50 assorted Scarabs, and if you do the average cost of them, and depending on how many gilded you get, it could actually be fairly reasonable in terms of the returns department. Right now I'm running 10% chance to, also 7% chance to drop additional basic currency items. And I've been thinking to myself the whole time, like maybe I should just be running the Scarab one, because Scarabs are so damn expensive and you can charge such a premium for having bulk ones that it may just be the better option. So that's a few ideas on Scarab farming for you guys, and a little bit about the Scarab Famine here. Obviously, Scarab farming is incredibly lucrative if you can pull it off. This is just a few ideas. If you guys have any more ideas, make sure you post them down below, because I'm constantly thinking about how I can address this. Obviously, you can go super high budget and do the Delirium Orb and really try and make that massive economic play. But really, that does, you know, it comes at a high price. And overall, I'm not too sure how worth it is unless you can get 11 or 12 rewards, and that really does require a high level of juice. Maybe that is worth it though, and if you're doing that right now, maybe you can tell me whether you think it's worth it. But overall, that does involve a lot of trade and friction, and I'm not sure how much fun that would be for a lot of players, myself included. So with all that said, guys, hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I really enjoy making this style of video. So if you do like it, and if you're enjoying the content on the channel, make sure you subscribe. So with all that said, guys, see you guys in the next one. Cheers.